Okay, I think that's us. Great. Well, welcome back, everyone. Yeah, we have a few tasks ahead of us this afternoon, so I'm just going to run through which the first one is. And just so you know, it was incredible to hear the progress just before the break there. And it seems like you really are starting to build a sense of what it is that you want to say in the reports that we'll be putting together. So thank you all again for your presentations and all the discussions over the course of the morning. What we're going to turn attention to now is spending a little time really pinning down the words of what it is that you want to say. So over lunch, we've drawn together your priorities for those overarching statements, which you shared in that last session. And we have allocated each of the 15 groups one or two of those to work on. And where possible, we've tried our best to allocate groups ones where they express interest in. But of course, that's not always possible. And as you remember, there'll be lots of overlap between the groups too, but we've done our best to do that. So remember that what you're working on now will form part of the interim and the final report in your own words about why it is that what you're recommending is important. So bear that in mind. So this is the task, and we will open the breakout rooms in just a minute. Is that each group, as I said, will be assigned a specific topic, so one of those areas you talked about, and you'll be asked to develop around 2 sentences, which is about 75 words, to form an overarching statement of ambition or a call to action on behalf of the Assembly. And please do remember that these are high-level statements, they're not specific goals and recommendations. So there will be an opportunity to look at them collectively in weekend 7 before they're endorsed on behalf of the Assembly. But over the course of the afternoon, there's also going to be a chance to review what some other groups have been drafting as well, just to help with that process. And you'll be working on jam boards for this session. So over the course of the afternoon, essentially, you're going to have the opportunity to review 2 other developing statements that are started by other groups with a view to giving some really constructive critique and advice to help that group improve what's written there. So your first task is a collective drafting one in your groups, and then you'll go through a bit of a process of review and refinement. And we'll be coming back together to look at everything collectively in weekend 7. Okay, hopefully that's clear enough. We're ready to open the breakouts already, so I'll see you a bit later.
Okay, so I know there was a bit of for some groups had a bit of a sort of slow start there, just making sure they knew what they were focusing on. There was a bit of a sort of technical hitch there, but hopefully people were able to start going, right, this is the sort of topic we're looking at. This is where we're starting to develop up a bit of a statement or a recommendation, not a recommendation, sorry, that high level statement, those ambitions. Notes there for the one that's sort of focused to your group that very much is about, we had to divide them up across all of the different discussions. Hopefully there was enough there to get you started. What we were going to do...
Sorry, I was just going to say Group 11 made a great start, so yeah, definitely a good starter for 10.
Oh, what we were going to do is give you a chance to have a look at where some of the other groups are up to and offer that bit of kind of potential constructive, friendly support or criticism about how we can strengthen up some of the goals. It does feel, not goals, sorry, strengthen up some of these high-level statements, these overarching ambitions. I do get a sense from some people that maybe their groups would like another couple of minutes just to, tighten what they've got up before we start the rotation. Yeah, some of the groups did get topics that maybe weren't their primary focus before, but across all of the groups, hopefully we picked up things that you were reporting back on before lunch. So we're going to go back into the breakout rooms in a second. And then we're going to give you maybe 5 minutes just to sort of, again, make sure you've got what you want on your Jamboard there so that people can come and have a look at it. And then we're going to put a sort of message through the 5 minutes to then go, right, everybody go and have a look at the next groups. You're not going to get a chance to look at all 15. That will take us a little bit too long today. But if you just move up, so if you're Group 1, have a look at Group 2 and Group 3. If you're Group 4, you'd have a look at Group 5 and Group 6. If you're Group 15, you'll have to come right back and start from the beginning and look at Group 1 and Group 2. So your facilitator will be able to share the screen and go there. And really, when you're going to have a look, have a look at what they've done. Does it capture some of the ambitions for the assembly as a whole collective? But also, could it be tightened up? Is it clear what they're trying to say? And you can use the post-it notes there just to sort of give them some friendly tips or friendly advice or suggestions. So you should have a chance to look at maybe sort of 2 of them there, and you'll then come back to your own group just to take note of any comments that were made by other groups, see if it does suddenly make it spring to something easier. And then we will come back together after a break. So any questions, we can always pop into the rooms and help you out if you're a bit stuck. So just let your facilitators give us a call. So I think we'll go, unless there's anything immediate right now, we'll go back into the breakout rooms. And we'll see you all after your break. Hi, everybody. I know, that might have felt like a bit of a rush break, but hopefully we're due to get started back now. I think I need to just sort of explain to a couple of groups that I know didn't really feel that they got finished in that last session. We did have a few tech problems that really did make it a bit difficult for a couple of the groups to really start looking at drafting those statements. But from what we understand from most of the facilitators, a lot of that work is done there and the notes are there. We had hoped to maybe have time to really review that today, but we haven't. And what we really want to focus on is the work you did yesterday that was around some of the mergers, and Kelly will tell you a bit more about that later. But what we're going to do is take the work from those statements, start bringing it together into a whole sort of statement from the assembly or potential. This is what we're doing. This is where we go now. These are the high level statements that we want to make that sum up some of our ambitions. And what we'll do is we'll have time, we will send this to you between now and weekend 7, so you'll have time to consider the different elements of it. And you'll also have time at the 7th weekend to really just either go, look, is this something we can sign up to as an assembly, or are there concerns within it? So we'll provide that opportunity to sort of feedback. Now, there will be some statements that maybe have been drafted in groups that individuals might not feel actually really fully reflects their position. It'll be up to you to think whether, how much you're willing to go with the kind of the view of the majority there as the assembly, and what are the things that actually really maybe seem like they don't quite fit our overall vision. So we'll have the opportunity to consider that moving forward. And just to apologize for anyone that did find that last one kind of frustrating. I know some groups did, just because, jumping around trying to work out what they were doing. But hopefully from quick look through, looks like we've got some great stuff there. So definitely the foundations for moving forward on those high level statements. So I'm going to pass over to Kelly now, just to explain a bit about what we're going to be doing now for the rest of the afternoon.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so what we're going to be doing for the rest of the afternoon is we are going to be switching our attention a little bit to another task. However, we do have a really good chunk of time for the rest of the day to work on this. So if your group needs to spend that 10 minutes or so at the beginning just finalizing the last task, that's absolutely fine. It's a flexible time for you. But the task that you're being asked to do now, so yesterday, if you remember, you worked in your cross-stream groups to identify where there were possible mergers, overlaps, contradictions, and gaps. Based on what you highlighted, overnight, the goals and the recommendations were clustered across the streams where you saw that potential. And now what you're going to do is you're going to review the clusters that have come through to see if you can produce text for an overarching goal that brings that all together and really encapsulates what it is that you want to say about that cluster. Any connected recommendations will then move to sit under that goal or goals that you want to redraft. And if you can't produce a clear agreed text, that's okay. You will instead capture some principles for mergers and regroupings. And by that, what we mean is that you'll be making some bullet points about what absolutely must or absolutely must not be included in some text that's drafted for an overarching goal. If there's anything within there that you think, actually, I have no idea how it's made itself here. I mean, it's because at least one group has suggested it. But you do also have the opportunity just to reflect and say, actually, that is much better just sitting where it originally was as a separate and independent goal. So you have that right. It's up to you. You will note, I am sure, that some clusters have some kind of thematic overlap with your high level statements, but that's absolutely fine. They serve different purposes. So do just remember that you're focusing here on the goals. So try not to get wrapped up in the detail of recommendations at this stage, unless you're one of the two groups that's been allocated a list of mergers that have been proposed just on recommendations. You will be working to finalize them next weekend. So for the majority of groups, you are focusing on goals now. Next weekend is also when you're going to address some gaps, which have been noted from the conversation yesterday. So those of you that have raised them, they are noted there. So you don't need to focus on that today. What you're focusing on is that goal and bringing together, synthesizing all that stuff you said that has some overlap. Any kind of links that you wanted to make to other goals and recommendations, because there were lots of comments about links that could be made. Again, that's not a task you need to focus on today, and it doesn't affect the task this afternoon, because how you make those linkages is really just a consideration for how things are presented in the final report, which again, we'll touch on in weekend 7, as we've been saying. We are also conscious that, you know, in sometimes squishy time, you might make a few minor spelling or grammar mistakes, but that's absolutely fine, because we are able to review that and to amend any minor spelling or grammar mistakes to make sure that the text is clear and crisp. But what absolutely will not happen is the sentiment of what is written will not be changing. So you just really need to pin down kind of that sentiment and what it is that you want to say. But any minor spelling or grammar edits, they can be addressed. And just a final reminder as well that you do want to produce a set of recommendations, as many of you have been commenting, that are effective. And, you know, in reviewing some of your comments yesterday, some of you did raise that it seemed like there was quite a lot. So just do bear that in mind as you're going through this task, and think about how you can be producing a really clear and cohesive set that will help to achieve that. Okay, so as I said, you've got quite a good chunk of time to look at this, but please do use that time flexibly if you need to, just to finish off the last task. And we will see you back here at 10:02 for the close of today. Okay, so restart the recording. So welcome back, everyone, and everyone that's just returned from the break. Ian, I believe you're going to give us a few final words.
Yeah, just to close up, really. I mean, I think I have to say, found that session earlier with the kind of the overall top line statements really fantastic, very inspiring and emotional in terms of the way that people were really grabbing hold of the big picture stuff. So it'll be fascinating, really fascinating this week to see how the votes go. I'm conscious, I think, of the fact that people are very deeply involved in the streams that they were involved in, and maybe struggling a little bit to, you know, the time we've allocated to get up to speed on these other ones, and, you know, maybe being quite skeptical or kind of inquisitive about. Is I muted for all of that?
No, just for the last second.
Oh, right. I don't know what's happened then. I was suddenly muted. So, but I was just saying, you know, I think that people maybe getting, you know, they're in the comfort zone for their own stream, but for the other ones, it's outside the comfort zone. So just with that in mind, it's just to draw your attention, really, that the Secretariat's put on, just a reminder, really, that all of the evidence and the videos for the other streams are on a folder. It's called Preparing for Weekend 6 and 7 on the Learning Programme. So if you're looking at something you're really not sure that someone else is telling you from one of the other streams, why don't you go and watch some of the evidential videos in that area and just get up to speed on that? And that might make you feel a little bit more comfortable about voting for things that you haven't been quite as deeply involved in. But that's it from me. I just thought it's been a marvelous weekend, and I really can't wait to start seeing the results come through, to see you're thinking and catching up. Weekend 7 to tie down some of the aspects around prioritizing and timing and finessing it all. But anyway, brilliant. See you. Thank you.
Super. Thanks, Ian. Okay, so just a couple of reminders for me, really, before I hand over to the conveners to close the meeting. The first thing I'm going to do is we're just going to quickly share this document, which hopefully some of you will have seen. And it's on your learning portal if you did want to see it. But it's just the timeline from here on in, including around the reporting. So we are coming back together for weekend 7, our final weekend, where we will be developing those supporting statements for the recommendations. And of course, very importantly, coming to look at some of the gaps that you've highlighted. So there'll be lots of chance for discussion in weekend 7 around all of that. Wednesday, the 24th of March is when Scotland's Climate Assembly's interim report will be laid before the Scottish Parliament. So the stuff that we've been working on today and the stuff that Kayla said will be in that report. And, you know, the members of the Scottish Parliament will have a chance to review that, and it will be in some of their briefings. May the 6th is the date for the Scottish parliamentary elections. And then after that, that's when the Climate Assembly's full report will be laid before the Scottish Parliament. So we're looking at after that May election there. And that will trigger the start of the 6-month period for the Scottish Government to respond to your recommendations. And then there will be some engagement between May and November 2021 this year. And that means that there's going to be opportunities for you to talk about and promote your recommendations to the public, Scottish Parliament, Scottish Government, local authorities, the UK Parliament, and absolutely anyone else that you want to talk to. So there'll be that opportunity too. And then in November, the Scottish Government response should be due. So that's 6 months after the full report is published. And the Scottish Government must and are expected to respond to your recommendation. And that may include a parliamentary debate around November 2. And then we have the Conference of Parties, also known as COP26, happening in Glasgow between November the 1st and the 14th. And the Secretariat are currently exploring a few opportunities for the Assembly to engage with that. So that should hopefully be all quite exciting, really.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few reminders, as I said. So I've said next weekend will be the opportunity to raise those gaps and to speak about some important things that you think members need to consider in relation to fairness and effectiveness of the recommendations. And there'll be some more information coming about that. There is also going to be requests again to vote between this weekend and weekend 7, as we've said previously. So you'll be looking now really at the goals, and they will be included in the interim report, and you'll have the opportunity to review and endorse your high-level statements when we come back together too. But you do not need to do any voting on the recommendations. We're going to be revisiting them in weekend 7 for your refinement and decision-making process. Ian already touched on this, but yeah, just another reminder to keep looking back at the evidence. Those videos and summaries are all on the learning platform. And please do, as always, complete the research survey if you can. It's really, really helpful to see how you're getting on with the process and to review that feedback between weekends. And now I'll just give in one final plug as well for the Children's Parliament. Loads of you have signed up already, actually, which is brilliant. But if you do want to meet with the Children's Parliament, please do just drop Juliet a line. That will be on the 14th or the 15th of March, and you're all very, very welcome to take part. That's it. That's us for this weekend. So thank you so much for your work. I know it was a difficult in places, but you all came together, and I heard there was lots of laughter for some people in the last session. So I hope you had lots of fun. But I'm just going to hand over to Ruth and Josh now to say their thanks, and then we'll see you next time.
So thanks, Kerry, and everybody. Just a quick word from me. I mean, I'm left with this amazing image of a tapestry. I guess the coherence that you're developing within all the work that you're doing and the cohesion that you're developing across all the streams is a bit like the warp and the weft of a tapestry or a weaving, and that really is bringing the strength to the recommendations and also vibrancy. So that's the image that I'm left with. A beautiful weaving. And I don't know if it was the weather outside, but there was definitely hilarity and real lightness of touch in the groups that I was in. So thank you for all the laughter as well as the really hard work. Fantastic.
Thanks, Ruth, and thanks everyone for all of your hard work this weekend. Really inspiring listening into the groups. The group I was in was really kind of making the case to treat this climate emergency with the same sense of urgency as we have been doing the pandemic, and I think it was a real sense of clarity to the high level statements that were being crafted. So very much looking forward to hearing the results of the votes. Thanks again for all your hard work, and look forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, everyone. Thank you so much again.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, everyone.